Out to the fallout, and it continues over the Justice Department's failure to meet the deadline to release all, that's what the law requires, all of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Democratic Congressman Khanna and Republican Congressman Thomas Massie, they authored the law, announced late last night that they will bring inherent contempt charges against Attorney General Pam Bondi. In a statement, Khanna called the DOJ's failure to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act, quote, an obstruction of justice, unquote.
This just happened late last night in Washington, D.C. The fragile peace between the executive branch and the legislative branch officially broke. We are witnessing the most serious internal political rupture in decades. This is not just a disagreement over policy. This is not just a delay in paperwork. This is a direct confrontation that threatens the stability of the Justice Department and the rule of law itself. Democratic Congressman Khanna and Republican Congressman Thomas Massie have initiated a process that has not been used effectively in nearly a century. They are moving to file inherent contempt charges against the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi. This is the nuclear option. This signals that the normal systems of checks and balances have failed. The issue at the center of this firestorm is the refusal of the Justice Department to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. The deadline has passed. The law has been ignored. Now Congress is taking steps to arrest or fine the Attorney General directly. This is a constitutional crisis unfolding in real time. The stakes are total institutional collapse or a reassertion of congressional power. Here is exactly what is happening right now. We need to walk through the exact timeline of this crisis because the details tell a very specific story about power and secrecy. The conflict centers on a piece of legislation known as the Epstein Files Transparency Act. This was not a suggestion. This was a law passed by Congress and signed into effect on the 19th of November 2025.
President Trump was told by the Attorney General that he is in the Jeffrey Epstein files. He was told he was in the files 2 months ago, and then last week said, no, he wasn't. He was. This was during a briefing on the findings of the Justice Department's review of the documents related to Epstein. That's according to sources familiar with the discussion. Those sources said the Justice Department's review found that the files appeared to include several unsubstantiated claims that they determined not to be credible, including those relating to Trump.
The language of the law was incredibly specific. It gave the Justice Department exactly 1 month to act. The deadline was set for December 19. That was the hard stop. By that date, the department was legally required to release every single document related to the illicit exploitation networks run by Jeffrey Epstein. That deadline came and went. We are now more than a month past that legal requirement. The files have not been fully released. Instead of transparency, the American public has received silence, delays, and heavily redacted pages covered in black ink. Late last night, the situation escalated from a delay to a standoff. Congressman Khanna and Congressman Thomas Massie announced that they are done waiting. They authored the original law, and they are now enforcing it. They stated clearly that they will bring inherent contempt charges against Attorney General Pam Bondi. In a formal statement, Khanna did not mince words. He called the failure to comply with the law an obstruction of justice. This is a very specific legal term. He is accusing the highest law enforcement officer in the country of obstructing the law she is sworn to uphold. This story should be the only thing people are talking about. It is rare for a Democrat and a Republican to agree on anything this significant. Yet here they are united against the Justice Department. The Justice Department has offered a series of explanations for this delay. They claim they are currently reviewing approximately 1 million pages of documents. They claim they need more time to redact sensitive information to protect the privacy of victims. They claim they are doing due diligence. However, the lawmakers involved do not believe these claims. They view these statements as stalling tactics. They believe these are the kinds of excuses used when an agency is trying to hide information rather than reveal it. There is a specific reason for this suspicion. It goes all the way to the Oval Office. President Trump was personally briefed on the contents of these files 2 months ago. During a briefing on the Justice Department's review, he was told that his name appears in the documents. Sources familiar with that classified discussion state that the president was informed he is in the files. However, last week the president publicly stated that he was not in the files. This creates a direct contradiction between what sources say happened in the briefing and what is being said to the public. Those same sources inside the process have added context. They said the Justice Department review found that the files appeared to include several unsubstantiated claims. They determined these claims were not credible. This includes the claims relating to Trump. However, the files still exist. The mentions still exist. And the refusal to release them is fueling the fire. This is why the anger on Capitol Hill is bipartisan. You have members from both parties looking at this situation and calling it a cover-up. Khanna is a progressive Democrat. Massie is a libertarian Republican. They are politically opposite in almost every way. Yet they are working together to draft these proceedings. They are discussing specific financial penalties. They are talking about fining the Justice Department or the Attorney General personally. The number being discussed is $100 a day. It could be more. The fine would apply for every single day that the Justice Department continues to withhold these documents. This is a serious threat. It is not a symbolic letter of complaint. Inherent contempt is a mechanism that allows Congress to act as its own judge and jury. It is Congress saying they will not tolerate being ignored. They are saying they will not let the executive branch hide behind redactions. They are accusing the Department of protecting powerful people under the guise of protecting privacy. The Justice Department did release some files after the deadline passed. But these releases have been described as partial and heavily censored. The pages are covered in black ink. You can barely read anything on them. The department says they are overwhelmed by the volume of 1 million pages. But critics point out that the government has massive resources. If they wanted to release the files, they could assign more staff. They could work faster. The fact that they are not doing so is being interpreted as a choice. The files that have been released so far contain multiple mentions of Trump. His connections to the central figure of the scandal are documented in those pages. This has led members of Congress to believe that the delay is political. They believe Attorney General Bondi is dragging her feet to protect the president. They believe the administration does not want the full scope of those files released because it would be politically damaging. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has added his voice to this chorus. On December 22, he made a statement that escalated the rhetoric significantly. He said this could be one of the biggest cover-ups in American history. That is a sitting United States senator using the word cover-up to describe the actions of the current administration. He is suggesting that the government is actively hiding the truth about a massive coercive exploitation network. The evidence supporting this view is the timing. If the Justice Department only cared about victim privacy, they could redact names and release the rest. They could use a standard process. Instead, they are withholding entire documents. They are missing deadlines by months. The reasons they are giving do not make sense to the people overseeing them. When confronted with these threats, the Justice Department did not apologize. They did not ask for more time politely. They were defiant. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche was asked about the threat of contempt charges. His response was dismissive. He said, and this is a direct quote, not even a little bit, "Bring it." He is telling Congress to bring it on. He is dismissing the threat of constitutional action. He is acting as if the Justice Department is untouchable. This attitude is fueling the crisis. It signals that the department believes it is above congressional oversight. It suggests they are confident they can ignore the law without consequences. This arrogance is what makes the situation so dangerous. It turns a document dispute into a question of who is actually in charge. It raises the question of whether the Justice Department is being used as a political shield. Pam Bondi was appointed by Trump. She is known for her loyalty to him. There are credible reports that Trump wanted her to use the department to go after his political enemies. There have been discussions about targeting Adam Schiff and Letitia James. Now, in that context, the department is protecting files that mention Trump. The releases are slowing down. The redactions are increasing. The requests for more time are piling up. It creates a clear picture for critics. It looks like the weaponization of the justice system. It looks like the system is rigged to protect the man at the top. This is happening at a critical political moment. The midterm elections are approaching. The Republican Party needs to present a united and trustworthy front to voters. Instead, their own Attorney General is facing contempt charges from a bipartisan coalition. They are facing allegations of a historic cover-up. This is damaging to the party brand. It is damaging to the president. It is the kind of scandal that pushes independent voters away. The law was clear. Release the files by December 19. The Justice Department failed. Now Congress is reaching for its most powerful weapon to force compliance. The standoff is real, the fines are being drafted, and the administration is daring Congress to act. We need to analyze why this specific moment is different from the usual noise in Washington. We see political fights every day. We see hearings and subpoenas every week. But this situation with the inherent contempt charges is fundamentally different. It represents a breakdown in the basic machinery of the United States government. To understand the gravity of this, you have to look at what inherent contempt actually is. Usually, if Congress wants to punish someone for ignoring a subpoena, they have to ask the Justice Department to prosecute that person. You can see the problem immediately in this case. Congress wants to punish the Attorney General. They cannot ask the Attorney General to prosecute herself. The system is broken because the person who broke the law is the person in charge of enforcing the law. Inherent contempt is the solution to that paradox. It is a power that allows Congress to bypass the Justice Department entirely. It allows Congress to send its own sergeant-at-arms to arrest someone or to levy fines directly. This power has not been used in this way in modern times. It is a relic of a time when Congress was much more aggressive about defending its territory. The fact that Khanna and Massie are dusting off this old weapon tells you that the normal rules have stopped working. This matters because it exposes the fragility of the institutions. We assume the government follows the law. We assume that if a law says do this by December 19, the government will do it. When the Justice Department simply ignores a statute, it shatters that assumption. It creates a precedent where the executive branch can decide which laws are real and which laws are optional. If they can ignore the Epstein Files Transparency Act, what other laws can they ignore? This is why libertarians like Massie and progressives like Khanna are terrified. They see a future where the executive branch has no limits. The reaction from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche is also a critical piece of this puzzle. When he said bring it, he was not just being tough. He was revealing a calculation. He believes that Congress is weak. He believes that even with the threat of fines, the Justice Department holds all the cards. This is a display of raw power. It is an assertion that the unelected officials in the Department of Justice are stronger than the elected representatives of the people. Historically, this kind of arrogance usually precedes a major fall or a major constitutional change. You can compare this to the battles over the Nixon tapes or the Iran-Contra documents. In those cases, the administration tried to hide information, claiming executive privilege or national security. In every case, the attempt to hide the information became more damaging than the information itself. The cover-up eats the presidency. The dynamic here is also about fear. For a long time, the fear of exposure kept the Epstein network hidden. Now the fear of political damage is keeping the files hidden. But the fear is shifting. Congress is now afraid of looking impotent. They are afraid that if they do not act now, they will never be able to oversee the Justice Department again. That fear is driving them to take extreme measures. We also have to look at the bipartisan nature of this. In the current political climate, polarization is the norm. Democrats and Republicans rarely talk to each other, let alone co-author contempt resolutions. The fact that this issue has bridged that divide shows how deep the rot is. It suggests that the frustration with the Justice Department goes beyond party politics. It is an institutional frustration. The legislative branch feels disrespected and ignored by the executive branch. This is a battle over the truth. The Epstein case is unique because it involves the intersection of immense wealth, political power, and terrible crimes. The public interest is enormous. By blocking the release, the Justice Department is standing between the public and the truth. They are effectively saying that the reputation of powerful people is more important than the public's right to know. That is a dangerous position for any government agency to take. The comparison to other countries is stark. In functioning democracies, when a minister or an attorney general breaks the law, they resign. In failing systems, they dare the legislature to stop them. We are seeing behavior that aligns more with the latter. The refusal to comply, the mockery of oversight, and the protection of the leader are hallmarks of a system that is losing its democratic accountability. We need to look at what is going to happen next because the trajectory of this crisis is pointing toward a very specific set of consequences. The short-term outlook is volatile. The February 12 hearing, scheduled by Rand Paul, is going to be the first major public flashpoint. You can expect fireworks. This will not be a polite conversation. The senators and congressmen involved are going to demand answers, and they are going to do it on camera. If the Justice Department continues to defy the order, the inherent contempt proceedings will move forward. This is where things get practical. If Congress votes to fine Pam Bondi $100 a day or $1,000 a day, that bill will start to accumulate. It creates a legal and financial headache that does not go away. It also creates a humiliation for the Attorney General. Every day she does not pay or does not release the files, the story stays in the news. It becomes a daily reminder that the Justice Department is breaking the law. In the long term, the consequences for the Republican Party are severe. We are heading into midterm elections. The narrative that the Trump administration is covering up a scandal involving illicit exploitation networks is political poison. It demoralizes the base, and it energizes the opposition. It gives Democrats a clear weapon to use in campaign ads. They can say that Republicans are protecting predators and hiding the truth. This also weakens Trump's grip on the narrative. Trump relies on being seen as an outsider fighting the deep state. But in this situation, his own appointees are the ones acting like the swamp. They are the ones hiding documents. They are the ones using bureaucratic excuses. It makes it very hard for Trump to claim he is cleaning up Washington when his own Attorney General is the one blocking transparency. We are likely to see a court battle as well. The Justice Department will almost certainly challenge the inherent contempt charges in federal court. This will set up a legal showdown that could take months to resolve. However, the political damage will happen immediately. The image of the Attorney General being held in contempt is a stain that is hard to wash off. There is also the possibility that this pressure works. It is possible that the fines and the bad press become too much. The Justice Department might suddenly discover that they can release the files after all. They might dump the documents late on a Friday night to try to bury the news. But even if they do that, the damage to their credibility is already done. Finally, this creates a pathway for future Congresses to use inherent contempt more often. If Khanna and Massie succeed here, they are setting a precedent. They are teaching future legislators that they do not have to rely on the Justice Department. They can use their own power. This could fundamentally change the balance of power in Washington for years to come. It could lead to a more aggressive Congress that is more willing to fight the executive branch on every issue. The bottom line is that the secrecy is becoming unsustainable. The wall protecting these files is cracking. The political cost of maintaining the cover-up is rising every single day. Eventually, the cost of hiding the truth becomes higher than the cost of revealing it. When that tipping point is reached, the files will come out. Until then, we are watching a high-stakes game of chicken between the people who make the laws and the people who are supposed to enforce them.